Welcome everybody. Today we'll be benchmarking the Western Digital Black SN850X NVMe SSD. But before that, let's take a look at the specifications for the drive. It comes with 5 configurations, including 3 different sizes, 1, 2, and 4 terabytes. And the 1 and 2 terabytes come with a heatsink as well. So again, 5 configuration. It's a Gen 4 M.2 drive. Here you can look at the form factor as well as the weight. Of course, with the heatsink it will be heavier. And then you can see that for the 4 and 2 terabytes, if we look at the speeds, you see that 4 and 2 terabytes have faster speeds than the 1 terabyte one for different benchmarks. And then the operating temperature is between 0 to 85. The storage is negative 40 to 85. And it's got security on it, and it's compatible with Windows and also PlayStation 5, but only the heatsink models. So you can't use the other ones for the PlayStation 5 in case you're interested in 5-year warranty. So those are the specifications, and the system I'll be using today to benchmark this M.2 drive is MSI Z790S Ace Max motherboard with coupled with an Intel Core i9 14900K processor, 2 Corsair RAM sticks, 64 gigabytes each at 5600 megahertz. And the drive itself here again is the 2 terabyte one, the SN850X Western Digital Black. And then I do have an external drive here. Doesn't matter. We have the internal graphics card with the CPU that comes with the CPU, and then the external graphic card is the RTX 4090. Alright, so that's the system we'll be using. And then we'll be using the CrystalDiskMark 8.0.5 to do the test. And of course, before we start, we're going to make sure that the NVMe SSD is selected under settings, and the profile we'll do a default peak performance and real world performance, see what those look like. Theme doesn't matter, just use the default and so on. Okay, so that's the setup here. And then if we look at the test counts, we do 5 per test, so we do 5 iterations per test. We'll do a 32 gigabyte test size. That's the minimum I would typically use to make sure we're pushing the drive enough to be giving us real world performance. And then the drive I'll be using is the C drive, it's 30% full, so I recommend that you all make sure you do that test with something that's at least 90% or less. So you want to have 10% of your drive free at least, at minimum, to have the best performance. And then we'll be reading out the megabytes per second for this default run. And right now we have the profile selected as default. We'll be doing 2 sequential runs and 2 random runs. Alright, so let's get started. Click this go. And so now what it's doing is, it will tell you on the top, it's preparing to create a test file. And it's doing the first sequential read. Alright, let's see what that looks like. So this is the first of 5 sequential reads. And we got about 6794 megabytes per second for the first one. And it's going to take all of them and average them. Then we'll let that run through and we'll take a look at the numbers. Alright, so the test is complete now, and we can see that for the sequential 1 megabyte chunks with 8 queue depth and 1 thread, you see it's about 16,900 megabytes per second for read, and about 6097 megabytes per second for write. And this is pretty much what the maximum it can do, as they're reporting it on the box. In this case, the drive has been used for a while, so you see that they're saying it should be about 7,300 megabytes per second for sequential read. I'm getting about 6,900, so it's significantly lower, but it could be because I've been using it for a while now, and so it's getting older and the performance is going down. And then now if if we look at the sequential 128 kilobyte chunks with 32 queue depth and one thread, we see it's very similar. It's about 6905. So this is for read and 6018 for the write speed. And this is essentially what they say is the maximum performance that you can do in real life for this specific drive. And then if we look at the random read, 4 kilobyte chunks, 32 queue depth, 16 threads, we see we're at 4961 for read, and then 2762 for write. And this is what the system would, normally do best, at best, in random read and write. So this is your best random performance. And then if we look at the worst case scenario, which is random 4 kilobyte chunks, 1 queue depth, and 1 thread, we see that it's 84 megabytes per second and 312 megabytes per second for read and write speeds respectively. And that's essentially the worst you can do again with the random performance. So that's the default profile. Now we can dig a little bit deeper and do the same test for the other profiles. Okay, so let's go to profile and do peak performance, and we'll start that test now. So I'm going to click all. All right, so the test is finished, and we see that the sequential 1 megabyte chunks with 8 queue depth and 1 thread, it's about 6942 again, as we saw before. The write is 5925, and then the random performance is 4961 read and 2721 write. And then if we look at the IOPS, or input output operations per second, we see that what we're seeing is 1.2 million, which is similar to what's being reported for the random read on the 2 terabyte drive here. So that's close to that, or slightly above that actually. And then we have the microseconds, so it's less than a millisecond delay here that we're seeing. So it's pretty fast. And then we have here if we're looking at the random write, we're seeing that it's about 664,000 when it should be about 1,100. I'm not sure why, but this is what we're seeing. So, and then the delay is about 0.77 milliseconds. Okay, so this is the peak performance. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a real world performance, something that's, just typical day. How is it going to perform? Alright, so this is complete, and we can see that in everyday performance the numbers are significantly reduced. So it's trying to show you, in worst case scenarios what it would do. And yeah, that's it guys. This is the performance on the Western Digital Black SN850X NVMe SSD drive. So far I've been using it for about 6 months, to give you a little bit of a perspective. Actually over 6 months, 8 months now. And it looks like the performance might have been reduced over time, just to be aware. But again, it's still performing really well. I haven't had any issues with it. And if you did like this video, please do hit the like and subscribe button. And until next time.